I would encourage you is like, rather than asking yourself whether you do it consciously or subconsciously, rather than asking yourself what are all the reasons or what is the reason that I can't start today, how can I start today?
Yeah.
What is the tiniest action that I can take today, which is like the first step towards whatever I want to make happen? It doesn't have to be that you like literally put the pole on the ground, but then pull out the pole exercise. Like, start, like do one tiny action in the direction of whatever it is that you like, something like you said, Laura, that still feels safe, like something that
Yeah.
is not too overwhelming, just
Yeah.
one tiny thing. Happy Monday and super welcome to today's podcast. Today we're going to talk about how to get started. And when I talk about how to get started, it can be anything. It can be coming back from an injury to start riding again. It can be coming back from a pregnancy or a break in your riding, how to start riding again. It can be how to start riding a new level. It can be how to start riding competitions. It can be how to start jumping. It can be how to start actually practicing your dressage test for your upcoming competition. Anything that you notice yourself having said a lot of time, oh, I should just start. Like I should just do it. And you notice yourself just postponing and postponing. Maybe it's a year that you've postponed. Maybe it's a week that you've postponed. But anything that you notice that you keep on just postponing and you just struggle to get started. Righto.
Yeah.
But before we dive in, if there's anyone who's listened to our podcast for the very first time, then do make sure you press the follow button so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. And if you've been around for a while and you are thinking about this thing about coaching, maybe it's something that I should actually dive into, then all you need to do is go to mindig.eu/coaching, take in your details, let us know a little bit about yourself, and Lorna will get in touch with you to see if you'll be a good fit to do coaching with us. Righto, Lorna. Let's dive in. Getting started.
Getting started. We actually said this before. Every Monday we record this podcast and we're always full of great ideas, but sometimes it is that thing, let's just start, because your mind wants it all to be, or my mind wants it all to be planned out and all my ducks in a row and know exactly what we're going to talk about before we start. And anyone who's listened to this for a while knows that Joss and I can ramble about absolutely anything and it will go in all sorts of directions. So that is actually not possible before we start. And that actually leads me into the same in our riding. How we can't always have all our ducks in a row. We can't always feel ready. We can't always have everything to work out exactly as we want it to, before we start. And there's lots of the guys that we work with, they're like, I have a motivation problem. Like, I'm really struggling just to get started. And it absolutely isn't a motivation problem. It's not a lack of skill. It's not a laziness program. It's not a weakness program. It's not that you're not committed enough. It actually is your nervous system doing what it's designed to do. And that is to keep you safe. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And if I were to I like to make this very practical, but I think about then is the reason why we often don't start, like you say, it's keeping us safe. So that means that there's something that we are afraid of. And a lot of the time, when the reason that we don't get started is because we think about the action that we might be confronted with, or the challenge that we might be confronted with years down the line.
Yeah.
Like, even if we don't realize it consciously, but the reason that someone wouldn't start jumping, for example, is, yeah, but if I start jumping, then maybe next week I'm going to have to call a trainer and actually book in a lesson. And then, maybe in a month from now, I'm actually going to have to go in and get myself a license that I'm going to have to pay for. It's going to be expensive. And then maybe in 3 months from now, I'm actually going to have to go to that first one competition and I'm going to have to go there and I'm going to have to work the course. And just the thought of that gives me goosebumps. And that then stops someone from actually just putting a pole on the ground today and actually canter over it a couple of times, just because we tend to think about that. Yeah, but then this and then this and then this and then this, and it becomes so overwhelming that we simply don't take the first action.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, again, a lot of the guys, and you talked about, if you decide to do coaching or you hop on a discovery call, we do lots of these really cool discovery calls. And, I think that thing, I need to be more confident before I jump, or I need to be more confident before I hack my horse on my own, or I have to be able to stop overthinking first, or I need to be braver, I need to push myself, I need to get over it. Like, I hear these excuses, for want of a better word, all day long. And it's not your confidence that is the problem. It's exactly what you're saying. Something you're about to do carries risk. So that can be risk of your safety. It can be risk of failing. It can be risk of making a fool of yourself. It can be risk of not being able to afford it, months down the line, risk of you can't afford the transport, whatever it is. I promise you it's not your confidence. It's underneath all of this. There is some sort of risk somewhere that's attached to it. And then again, if we go back to that nervous system thing, it wants to protect you. So it would rather protect you and say there's no point in starting because you're going to come across X, Y, and Z, exactly what you're saying, in 2 months' time or a year's time. So actually, it's probably better if you just don't start this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that leads to something that is called paralysis analysis. Like this is a thing, right? There is an expression for this. This is so if you're experiencing this, you're certainly not the only one. This is a thing, right? That we get paralyzed by the fact that we analyze so far down the line and so many actions down the line that we just it gets just our nervous system, like you say, our brain, we simply cannot handle it, and then we just go in complete paralysis, and then we end up doing nothing.
Yeah. And I think that is really cool because, again, your nervous system doesn't care if you've paid for lessons, if you've entered competitions, if your coach says you're ready. It doesn't really care about any of that stuff. It cares about survival. Are we safe in this moment? And that's a great question to ask yourself. What are you avoiding? Are you safe in that moment? And if you're not safe or you don't know the answer, it feels uncertain, your system will just start coming up with all these stories. Like it doesn't work in facts, it works in stories. So even, I guess, if you take a really simple example, like you want to step up a level, we always use event example. So let's use a dressage example. And you've done the work at home, you know the moves, like you're ready to go. But suddenly all these stories will start appearing. What if I forget my text? What if I have to ride in front of 2 judges? What if I suddenly forget how to do my changes? What if? And none of this is fact. It's predictions that your mind starts making up for every single reason to protect you why you shouldn't actually be doing something. And I think that not usually, that's a generalization. Sometimes it appears when people want to push up and they're outside of their comfort zone. So we don't know the answer to the outcome. So am I capable, essentially, when the fences get bigger or when things get more technical or the moves get more challenging, am I capable? And then you can start having this huge argument with your brain, which obviously takes up so much energy, whether you think you should or you shouldn't actually go to the competition with a trainer or hack out on your own. If you've got a bit of a nappy horse, it doesn't really matter. It'll show up anywhere for you.
Yeah, or whether you even should go out riding today because it's raining.
It's raining. Yeah, 100%. There's a risk you might get wet. Imagine.
And that way we can always find. But I love what you said, that there's stories. It's stories. And here's the thing: I can guarantee you, the perfect circumstances are never gonna be there. Like that's just like perfect doesn't exist. So a lot, because often what we do, we end up waiting for quote unquote the perfect circumstances, and because perfect circumstances doesn't exist, there's always going to be something which you can use as a reason not to do it. There's always a reason not to start, whether you're too old, you're too tired, the weather is not great, you don't have enough money this month. There's perfect circumstances doesn't exist. So will always be a reason, aka an excuse, not to start. Like there's always something there. And what I would encourage you is rather than asking yourself whether you do it consciously or subconsciously, rather than asking yourself what are all the reasons or what is the reason that I can't start today, how can I start today?
Yeah.
What is the tiniest action that I can take today, which is like the first step towards whatever I want to make happen? It doesn't have to be that you literally put the pole on the ground, but then pull out the pole exercise. Start. Do one tiny action in the direction of whatever it is that you like. Something like you said, Laura, that still feels safe. Like something that is not too overwhelming. Just one tiny thing. But start asking yourself, rather than being like, what are all the reasons that I can't do it? What are all the reasons that I can't start? How can I make it happen?
Yeah, and I think as well that's really cool because that is not just positive thinking. Just tell yourself that you can do it. Like your nervous system ain't going to be on board with that, but what it does love is evidence. Okay, so it loves to evidence things. So if you want to start jumping, exactly what you're saying, you pull out a pole in your arena or your field. I'm guessing at some point in your life, you've at least tried, you've walked over a pole. It doesn't even have to be trotting, it doesn't have to be cantering, but there will be some evidence there that you're capable. Or even if that's too much, and this is obviously making it really basic, go into your arena and just like do some shapes or do something, like just exactly what you say. What is the smallest possible thing? Because your brain loves familiarity. And have I been in this field before? Have I been in this environment before? Have I coped with an unexpected situation, as in a spook or any of that? Have I recovered from this? I don't know, making things up. Have I finished difficult rides? Have I learned new skills in the past? Have I done hard things in the past? The
Yeah.
answer is usually yes. Like
Yeah.
if you really start to evidence it, you will find there will be a yes. But when we're activated or in that fight or flight mode, like we want to get out of here or we don't want to try, we forget all that. And the only thing that happens in that situation is your brain scans for danger. It rarely looks for evidence. So the more evidence that you can find that you've done hard things,
Yeah.
challenging rides, whatever it is in the past, the more it's going to let you try or just pull out that pull, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think also what you said there about evidence, and that's why it's so important, I think, to start with one tiny action,
Yeah.
because usually the hardest thing is starting.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is starting. But if you then can do something very, very tiny, like just pulling out of the ground or lunge your horse over a pole or whatever,
Yeah.
that means that you've started. And that means that you've done the hardest thing. You've
Yeah.
actually already started. And that means that you have already done one action and you've proved to yourself that I have started. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's out the way. We've already started building some momentum there. You collected evidence for that you can do hard things. You've collected and then the more evidence, like you say, Lauren, that you can start to collecting and
Yeah.
be like, I love this actually, because this is an exercise you can do for yourself. Every morning, write down one tiny action, something that you can do that just keeps on building that momentum.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's called the domino effect. Like if you do one tiny action every single day, that tiny action over time, it builds up. So if you just continue to do one tiny action every day, after a week, you've done 7 tiny actions. After a month, you've done 30 tiny actions. After a
Yeah.
year, you've done 365 tiny actions. Like if you've done 365 tiny actions, I can assure you, you're already out there jumping. It's impossible that you've done 365 actions and you're not out jumping yet. But you don't have to focus on the fact that you're going to be out jumping on a competition. All you need to focus on today is that tiny action and just continue to build that momentum.
Yeah. And readiness is only going to come from action, huh? It's not the other way around. Like we say this all the time, but you can sit around, waste your whole life waiting to feel ready. Like you will literally waste your whole life because it's not going to happen. And actually we went cross country school the other day and there was some young horses there and I spent ages just watching them because for a lot of them it was something new, huh? And you don't sit there and watch those horses and think they should be confident. Like already, like we expect a young horse to go with curiosity, to look where it's putting its feet, like have a look, a little investigation, I suppose, a bit hesitation, a little bit of learning. Like you don't look at that horse and say, hey, you should be brave already. Like you should be able to do that. And that's what riders do, huh? Like you should be brave before you start. Like that's bullshit, huh? If you look at that young horse cross country, like it's looking where it's putting its feet, and yes, it might have a little hesitation and it makes a little mistake by putting its foot off a step, but then it brings it back and it's unsure and then it gets a bit more confidence and it goes a bit more boldly. Like that's exactly how we should function as humans. We instantly think that something's gone wrong if we don't feel confident before we start, but it's bonkers. Like putting the pole out and exactly what you say, you do one tiny action for 365 days of the year, you're going to be jumping tracks before you know it. You absolutely are. But you have to embrace that whole process of curiosity and wanting to learn and making mistakes and finding stuff out. Like that is how we learn. That is how we grow. That is how we get better, essentially.
Yeah. So it's not about being, because there's a lot to do with the ready, right? We're not going to start until we're ready. But it's like that saying also, fire, aim, ready. It's like we like we always tends to be that we think we need to be ready, then we need to aim, then we need to fire. But it's actually the other way around. We need to fire, just freaking take the action, just go. And then we see what happened. And then we can be like, okay, that wasn't quite right. Okay, I'm going to re-aim. And then we shoot again. And then we are actually ready. But that's because we took the action and we readjusted and then we get ready.
Yeah. And I think that is cool as well because a lot of the guys that we work with, I don't want to feel my nerves. I don't want my nerves to take over before I start. So they're waiting for this feeling that suddenly they're uber confident and they're not nervous anymore before they do something. But actually, it comes down to that thing. Your nervous system is protecting you from stepping up or embarrassment or disappointment or judgment or failure, like all of those things. And you you don't have to, obviously that's a pressure word, but the only way to actually step in is actually to experience all those things, experience that full human range of emotions, and then actually reflect in a way that serves you to then be able to learn and to grow. And, nerves are, I always say to everyone, nerves are energy. Like, they show you that you care about what you're doing. And you have to learn to function with this energy in your body to the best of your ability and self-regulate yourself within all this energy so that you actually can compete to the best or ride to the best of your ability. Because again, there's a story that, and somebody said this actually just before we hopped on this call today, that professional riders, they don't have any nerves. But I'm like, well, there's a story that your nervous system is telling you to protect yourself from actually, first of all, stepping into that competition, and second of all they've done is learn to self-regulate better or quicker so that they can function within all that energy that they have in their body. So again, she'd already started to tell herself that story and had no awareness of where her mind was taking her with it. So obviously, as we always say, everything comes down to awareness as well.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I dare to say that when you get that nervous feeling, like those butterflies in your stomach, or that,
Yeah.
when you kind of have to swallow like 1 time extra and take that deep breath.
Yeah.
Actually, that means that you're on track. That means that you're about to do something that is just outside your comfort zone. And then it's like you say, Lorna, then if you can learn to manage yourself,
Yeah.
because actually that means
Yeah,
that you're
it
about to
is.
do the thing.
Yeah.
You're about to do the thing.
Yeah.
But if you can then regulate yourself enough, take control of your mind, take control of your body, take control of your
Yeah,
nervous system
100%.
enough to still go ahead and take the action, that
Yeah.
is where you get ready. That's where you gain
Of
confidence.
course. But it's the same thing, how like, whereas you can have a really good training and you feel really connected to your horse and you have your awareness points and you have your big canter and it's all just working out. And then you go to the competition and they're like, oh my God, I can't do it. Like, everything's falling apart, but it's not falling apart. It's just you've not been able to regulate yourself in that different environment. And remember, that whole fight or flight response is just something matters. And of course it matters. Otherwise we wouldn't all put ourselves through this crazy ups and downs of this sport if it didn't matter. So actually, if you can learn to regulate yourself, nothing suddenly changes. You can't, the day before, you can't suddenly jump this really smooth 110, 120 round, and then you go to the competition and you're like, oh my God, I can't ride anymore. You can. You've just lost the ability to regulate yourself when something matters just that little bit more.
100%. And if you want to find out more about how to do that, continue to listen to this podcast. Make sure you press the follow button. And if you're like, oh, actually, I don't feel like sitting through another 100 podcast episodes and take snippet bits and pieces out of each other. Like, you can learn this thing from listening to our podcast. I've lost the count. I think we have some around 250 episodes almost. Like, you can sit through all those 250 episodes and you'll learn what you need to learn to regulate yourself. I promise. But that's a lot of hours spent. So what you also can do is apply for coaching. And we can take you through a guided path, literally personalized for you, depending on where you are at in your journey. And we can hand you the tools that you need for exactly where you're at and where you're going to make the process progress. And as I mentioned in the beginning, all you do to apply is go to mindic.eu/coaching. You'll find the link to that in the show notes. And Lorna, do you have anything to add to that?
No, but I just think, I was thinking about it just now, just if you want a little exercise, just evidence things that you're actually more capable than the story essentially that your nervous system would have you believe. So if somebody's sat here listening right now, and exactly what you say, you can always get snippets out of here. But if you want to start one exercise, just evidence all the things that you've got through, hard things that you've done, things you've learned, where you've come out the other side. And I guarantee you that list will be bigger than the story that you're actually telling yourself.
Yeah. Brilliant advice. And on that note, we're going to challenge you to start making strides in your mindset so you can truly make strides in your riding. And we will see you on the next Magical Monday.
Bye.